Thank you, sir. Up next, we're throwing you a little bit of a curveball. We had Ernie planned, but Steve O'Hara is going to fill in and give us a presentation on partnering to overcome E&C challenges.
All right, well, good morning. I know we're a little bit before lunch, and you're in the Cincinnati area, so if you raise your hand if you've had Cincinnati chili before. So about half the room. There's two main types of Cincinnati chili. It's Gold Star and Skyline. They're both about 5 blocks from here, just towards the Brent Spence Bridge, easy to find on Google Maps. Traditionally, it's a very thin chili served over spaghetti or your hot dog. We won't be this close in the afternoon. It does come with onions, and it's much better with onions, so you won't have a neighbor in the afternoon. Outside of the chili, how many of you have a boss? Raise your hand if you have a boss in here. Just about the whole room has a boss. And if you didn't raise your hand, you're probably working for yourself, but I bet you have a boss at home. How many of you have a hard and fast rule about when to answer a phone call from a boss? How late in the day will you answer a phone call from your boss? Anytime it rains. Okay, so last night I found myself in a precarious situation, catching up with some colleagues in the back of the room there, and otherwise distracted. But about 11 o'clock, my boss calls, and I'm like, geez, what the heck could he want at this hour of the night? You know, so I picked it up, and I said, yeah, how can I serve you, Mr. Drott? And he says, well, I'm not feeling well. I think you're going to have to pinch hit for me tomorrow morning. So at the end of the story, I'm here to answer the call, and you're suffering with me for the next 15 minutes on the last couple hours I've had to prepare for the presentation here. So just like Katarzyna did, I am going to defer all of the hard questions to Louisville District. So John Bach, get ready. Colonel Crispino, you're welcome to chime in there too. So I'm here to talk to you about partnering challenges that we have in the engineering and construction world. And traditionally, I'm a construction person, so the engineering side is a little bit new to me, but I have quite a bit of experience on the construction side. Next slide. A little bit about our situation. You've heard from most of the speakers this morning. We have a tremendous workload ahead of us. This is already on top of previous supplemental workloads that we've had from BB18 that are just clearing real estate phase and hitting the execution side. So last year in construction, we executed $4 billion in construction contracts in the Great Lakes and Ohio River Division. $600 million of that $4 billion is carried over into future year appropriations. So we still have $600 million to execute in our civil works portfolio, as well as our civil works O&M portfolio. And we expect to see, $200 million of yearly income to our O&M program in civil works as well. How do we get that work done? Traditionally, we design all of our civil works projects in-house. We do rely on some what we call secondary services, testing, some site investigation work, and that equates to about 10% of our civil works design budget that we do through AE services. And finally, the current situation on the status of engineers. Increasingly, it's hard to recruit. It's hard to retain. We're seeing less and less applicants. I'm sure you're probably seeing the same types of things. I see a lot of heads nodding. Talking to universities, we're seeing fewer students that are interested in the engineering profession. Fewer students are enrolling in engineering overall. So, next slide. Our challenge is to meet the mission. We have to get the work done. We've got a huge monumental program ahead of us. And what that's going to take is more industry and government cooperation going forward. So we'll talk a bit about the strategies that we have to do that. And talking about the shortage of engineers, I have 6 kids. None of them play in a sandbox. I grew up probably playing with Tonka toys, sandbox, Tinker toys, all my kids are tied to a device, you know, and they've all got their heads, and I don't think that's abnormal. So trying to get kids out, seeing some of the neat things that we do, you know, we kind of take advantage of it day to day. But if you can organize an event on your job site or your workspace to kind of spark create that spark in the youth for the engineering profession, that's something that we owe to tomorrow's generation. Additionally, we've got, you know, internships, co-ops. The Corps does a lot of that stuff. I know the private sector does as well. You know, it's tremendous that we have to really build that partnership with the youth. Next slide. So talk a little about the goals that we have in LRD specifically. So I talked that traditionally we're executing 10% of our civil works workload through the AE community. We need to boost that up. Our goal is to increase that to 30% over the big peak in workload. How are we going to do that? We're also going to increase design build as an acquisition strategy going forward. Traditionally, Civil Works has not participated in the design build world. That's been primarily a vertical construction or military construction acquisition strategy. And we have to close the gaps on some of those key skills. Structural engineers, mechanical engineers, and construction management. We are seeing attrition rates across the industry where we're struggling to meet the current demand. More of this will be discussed this afternoon in breakout session 2. I think there's a panel set up to introduce and dive deeper into some of this talk. So how are we going to get the job done? We have a strategy of 17 regional indefinite quantity contracts. They leverage in the various disciplines there: construction management services, design build, design itself, and specific disciplines of design, whether it's engineering, value engineering, you name it. There is a tremendous capacity coming region-wide for the AE community. It's roughly about 270 million or so. All the contracts are going to be executed. Some of them have already been let, some of them have already been awarded. But all the contracts, and we'll go through, our plan is to have them awarded by the end of this fiscal year, September 30th of 23. Next slide. So here's some of the construction contracts. I don't know why I put construction first, but I always tend to put construction first over engineering. Some people say engineering and construction. I like to say construction and engineering. And Mr. Durrett, where's he at? He likes to call it big E, little c. So, you know, we've been living with that too. But here's the construction contracts that we have going on. Roughly about $750 million of construction contracts coming out. One of them is currently awarded through the Huntington District. 3 others left to be solicited and awarded. So if you're looking for some opportunities for the multi-award contracts, this is your flavor. There's marine construction, rivers construction, and then a unrestricted design build MATOC coming out. Next slide. They talked previously about replacement of gates and old infrastructure. Don Johannes talked about that. And up and down the river, we have a miter gate modernization program, and as well as standardizing our miter gates so that if there was a fatal accident, or not a fatal accident, but a tragic accident, that we could easily replace miter gates from one project to another. So we have 2 standalone metal fabrication contracts that have been awarded to do miter gate replacement and tainer gate replacements and other structural steel member fabrication. Those were awarded this past year, November and August. If you're interested in subcontracting opportunities to those folks, it's easy to find who those specific vendors were that were received. Next slide. Construction management services. These are being led out of our Louisville district. There's one service disabled veteran-owned small business set-aside that was at the $45 million level, and then an additional service contract that is planned for $240 million coming up March of this year. Next slide. Our AE contracts, we talked a lot about the capacity here in getting away from the Corps doing all of its in-house design. This is how we're going to leverage a lot of the industry experience on the Civil Works portfolio. We've got about half of our AE task order contracts already awarded, with about half to go. Next slide. You can see going forward, we do have that $600 million of carry-in money for the FY23. We also have planned a lot of FY24 awards that are being scheduled right now. Still a lot on the O&M side, carrying in $600 million from a region that traditionally gets $200 million. So that, not all $600 million will be executed this year in 23. We still plan to carry out some through 24, but you can see there we're planning right now $475 million of new awards in O&M, roughly 200 contracts. And here's our average workload. Traditionally, we do about $1 billion in our construction general account, which is, and our operation and maintenance account is roughly about $1 billion, which also includes our in-house labor. So, we have the money to be able to partner with our industry to get this stuff done. Next slide. We did talk about a lot of this addressing shortage of engineers, but the challenge, really reach out, set up a K-12 program. If you do it once in your career, it'll pay you back just in that one time. Look at other ways that you can invest in people, whether it be scholarships through SAME, just traditional mentoring of a high school or college student. Reaching out makes the profession really have a name, and it gives a face to what otherwise is just a busy site with creating a lot of dust outside the neighborhood. So make sure you reach out to folks and get them interested in the profession and what we do. Next slide. So small business, we talked a little bit about the awards that have happened. If you are interested, here's a slide, and it's tough to read, and I know you'll be provided this here shortly, but if you're not familiar with how to find who received the awards, these are kind of instructions of how to do that. A lot of it goes through the sam.gov portal, as well as the sba.gov, and you can get subcontracting opportunities with the vendors that have already received the awards. Next slide. Traditionally, what we do, if you're looking in specific NAICS codes, here's our top 5 NAICS codes if you want to search on those. Commercial, institutional, building construction, other heavy civil, and the list on down the line. But AE services, and emergency management, energy, a lot of the stuff that you've heard Katarzyna and Don talk about is primary focus areas, are what we're going to need help in executing here in the near term. So these are the keys of how to find and how to get the work. Next slide. And with that, that's the end of the presentation, but Colonel Crispino and John Bach will take all your hard questions. Are there any questions?
Are you able to locate this, what you just showed anywhere on the website, on the SAM website, the award contracts and everything, what's coming up?
Yeah, there's a way to search in the sam.gov website, and if you want to look at specific solicitations, that those numbers are actually included in the previous slides, whether it's metal fabrication, construction management services.
Where can you get those NIC codes from?
The NAICS codes would be what you kind of specialize in as a contractor or an AE. And
Where these top five here, where would you, let's say we left out here today and we forgot these, where would we be able to
So these will actually be, where's Morgan? They'll be posted on the site and emailed out to all the attendees here?
So the codes are generated from the Census Bureau. You can find them there. And when you register your company in SAM, you enter what your primary mix code is, your size status tied to your mix code.
What if you
That's
don't,
how,
like me, I'm the labor representative, I don't have a company per se, but if I wanted to go check a project for the building construction, how would I go about that outside of just putting this number in?
you would look in SAM using that number.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if you want to look at an opportunity from anywhere inside one of our 7 districts, you can just type the name in, but you can also type in their DODAC. Okay? Mm-hmm. And you can come talk to me during the networking session and I'll help you.
Yeah, and on sam.gov, it's also easy to search those
Yeah.
solicitation numbers that are, that you saw previously, and you can see the synopsis as well as the plan schedule, things like that. So, and any questions, contracting representatives, talk to the technical representatives, but most of them multi-award contracts that will be task order driven after award. Question in the back, just, you might want to come up to the mic right here.
You mentioned design build for civil works, is that correct?
Correct.
Are you
Yes.
serious about that?
It's going to be a transition, yes. It's a change in mindset. So, you know,
Definitely.
traditional design build is the construction contractor owns the designer of record, and we are looking to do some of our acquisitions through that method.
Are you targeting specific types of projects?
That acquisition strategy has been developed for specific projects. I think the districts will get into the details on which projects they're looking at for design build further in their presentations. And Colonel Crispino can add more on that if you want. Anything else? Anything come up in chat, Lindsay or Ricky? If it's from Ernie Drott, just ignore it.
Is the 265 million AE up you mentioned forthcoming, or a culmination of multiple 25 plus contracts already in procurement?
So the question was, is the $265 million in AE contracts forthcoming? Lindsay, I don't know if you want to go back a few slides to the AE. So the highlighted in green on this slide is already awarded, and the white is yet to be awarded. I'm not exactly sure which phase each and every contract is in, but there's an anticipated award date on the right, and you can kind of generate whether you're ahead or behind the power curve based on that current date. They're all being advertised right now. Okay. Lisa?
Here, I'll help you out, Steve. So all of them are already out. We've received proposals on all of them, and so we're under source selection for the 4 that are not yet awarded. But we're expecting awards very soon, and when those awards come out, we will be posting them on our website, and the QR codes that you're going to see in the networking sessions this afternoon will show you everybody that's been awarded, the prime contractors that have those contracts, and that will continue to be updated as we award more. So master planning would be done by just one of our districts and not as a regional approach on it. And it might cover our whole region, but it's not one of these right here. But we're working on getting all that information as well. Any districts? Who's doing master planning? Louisville? Okay, so you'll talk to the Louisville district today. You'll get the exact status, and then we're going to keep updating those so that everybody will have all of those IDIQ tools, the one door to see everything that we're doing within LRD.
You'll see a different strategy on almost each of them. Some of them are region-based, some of them are national-based. Am I correct, Crystal? Some of the design build are, I believe, nationwide. some of the AE may be nationwide, some of them may be just region-based. So, you know, check on the geographic locality of what you're looking for as well. No hard questions from Jim Moore.
Good morning.
gets-
Thanks again to all of you for setting this up. My name is Jim Moore. I'm with Green & Peterson. Along with my partner, Marcy, we hold that last contract, or an awardee under the last A&E survey and mapping service. We're trying to understand the MATOC process with, not just this LRD, we have 2 other contracts with Interior that are they're patterning their actions after the Corps. And predicting what might be coming and hearing what has been awarded that we didn't get are the 2 challenges we have with MATOCs. I know most of you and my colleagues here that are part of ACEC, we pushed back very hard when the Corps put these MATOCs out a couple of years ago, and we give up, right? They're out there. So if we're gonna work, we have to take it. But is there a way to learn more about forecasting what we can expect to see in a torn in the future, and in knowing, without having to go through all the federal websites to see each task order, to know what we've been awarded versus our competitors or colleagues?
Absolutely. So, you know, a certain amount of that information can be disclosed during the solicitation, but really that conversation develops after you receive the award, and, you know, you're not bidding just off of the, you know, whether it's a real life situation to evaluate the bid, or whether it's just a phony situation that's kind of make-believe that's meant to evaluate your actual credentials. But that conversation has to happen after award, and it has to happen with the region as a whole. You're going to be assigned a contract specialist. There's going to be capacity that's going to be set aside for each district based on some of that projected workload, and the strategy that's developed once these tools are final and in place. So those conversations, I know that's a fairly recent award for you, but those conversations will probably be taking place here in the near future with you. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Christopher Cox, and we're with Kadiri Products, and we provide industrial and construction supplies. Most of the contracts, I'm sure, are with construction companies. What is the best mode or the best way for those of us who have industrial and construction supplies to, you know, get in on, you know, a lot of the contracts?
So your primary target's probably going to be the construction contractors that are successful in going through the award process with us. We do procure some minor construction supplies for our individual field staff, but the bigger ticket purchases are probably going to be made up from those successful construction contractors that get the awards.
Steve, they can track projects, you know, in the solicitation phase, just like the construction contractors. They can go to site visits, just like the construction contractors. All that information out there, so they just need to be anticipating it and not waiting until after award all the time.
So there's a specific question in the chat of when the cost engineering contract for Huntington District is going to be let. I'm looking for my Huntington folks. Where's Dennis Hughes? But I think that'll be more available in the afternoon session, the dialogue with the district. So we'll try to table that and get back. That's a virtual person, so I'm not sure if the virtual is offered in the afternoon, but, okay, we'll get back. I think they had to register with an email, right, to get on the WebEx or register for the program, so we can send out that to that individual as well.
Let's just get their name and information, we get the money to the POC to answer that.
Sure thing.
Capture that in minutes.
Any other questions? I appreciate the interaction. I wasn't expecting this last night about 11:30. I was like, oh, John Bach's got this. He'll do it. All right, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.